Okay, hello everyone. Welcome to Blank First Page. My name is Lucas. Today I'm going to be talking about a handful of notebooks that I got on a recent trip to New York, and I'll also be talking about the notebook and the pen that I took there and that I tend to take when I travel and go anywhere, really, including shopping. So let's start with these three notebooks that I got. Two ring bound and one just standard vertical flip notebook, I guess. We'll start off with this one. This is the most prestigious because it comes in a clear plastic bag. It is a Kleid Notes ring memo craft paper. And you know this is a Japanese notebook when the front has an unnecessary amount of detail, technical detail about the notebook sort of printed in a fancy lettering on it. So here we've got Kleid Notes, ring memo, craft paper, type Craftwork memo. Not sure if this is all visible on the screen. Stock number, whatever that is, they've put the inventory management number on there. Size A7, 7:4 or 70 sheets, I guess, and designed by Kleid in Japan. My favorite thing is the color, which is olive drab, which I guess it is, but it is actually quite a nice olive color and goes well with the brass rings on the top, which seem to be quite sort of really firm, heavy-duty brass, which is good because it'll hold up nicely in sort of a back pocket. The size is perfect for a jacket breast pocket and even a t-shirt breast pocket, and you can still see the rings at the top there. Nice sort of my kind of pocket square. Anyway, really nice sort of card heavy duty cover, which will again good for durability, really strong back. What's the nicest about this notebook though is the paper. So I think it is sort of a craft paper. You can see on it like flecks. It's as if it were like the linen paper where you can sometimes see threads and different things that they use in the paper making process. But this, I think, because it's just recycled paper, you get a bit of texture in the paper, which is really nice. When you look closely, it's got a white grid, and it actually looks as though it's the paper that's white and the beige brown color has been printed on top. I don't think that's the case. Seems like whatever white ink has been used. The coolest thing about this, and I don't know if this is intentional or not, is that about just under halfway down the page, everything else is square, but then you've got a line which is rectangular. I don't know if that's an actual manufacturing mistake or if it is intentional. Probably doesn't even come up in the camera, but it is all throughout the pages and it is quite cool. So we will do a quick various writing instrument test on there. Start with the pencil. So I have pencil test. It's a Palomino Blackwing Natural with the extra firm core, I believe. We've got a fountain pen test. It's a bit feathery. This is a Muji fountain pen, which is one of my favorite fountain pens. It's got a sort of a nice fine nib, and I like it a bit scratchy. It's maybe a bit too scratchy on this, and for some reason it doesn't seem like the paper that would bleed, but it is bleeding. And then or feathering rather than bleed. Rotring Rapid Pro with a Parker rollerball. I never know if it's rollerball or ballpoint. I think it's rollerball. Nice and smooth. And a Muji felt tip pen. Felt tip. Pretty good. I probably wouldn't use fountain pens on there. Not the huge amount of bleed through. I don't mind bleed through that much, but the feathering is a bit annoying. But anyway, really nice notebook. This one was, how much was it? $7.95 US. Really cool addition to my pocket ring-bound notepads. I quite like those. Next, a Silvine British-made pocket notebook. This one has a linen-like cover, and it's got looks like it's a saddle-stitched binding. Pretty heavy-duty card stock kind of cover. $3.95. Each page is actually perforated, and I've been doing some testing there, so you can actually rip the pages out of this. The main reason I bought this one, I chose it, is because I have this notebook, which I was working in the UK in 2015. I was about to leave the UK, and I thought, I need a notebook for the last few weeks to take my daily notes in at work. And because it said British made on it, I thought, perfect, memory of the UK to have a notebook. And this was just kind of like out of the stationery cupboard at work. I thought it was a pretty cheap looking thing. In fact, it is quite cheap. It's not a particularly nice notebook. I have a sourdough recipe in there from just when I arrived in Australia, actually. But it actually turned out to be a really pleasant notebook to use. It wore out nicely, which is one of my favorite things. I like notebooks that are textured and that they wear in. So this ended up being really nice and very interesting that in a sort of a cool hipster trendy notebooks or bookstore in Williamsburg in New York, they had this, which I would otherwise always have thought it's just some cheap office supplies notebook. And it might very well be. This was only $3.95. I've already done some testing in this one, but let's take a new page. So this is actually 2 pages back, and you can see how thin the pages are, or how thin the paper is. But I don't mind. I don't mind that at all. So we'll go pencil. The paper is actually a bit textured, and it's kind of pulling away more of the pencil graphite, which I quite like. It creates that sort of friction. We go rollerball. Again, you can kind of imperceptibly feel the rollerball rolling because of the texture on the paper, which is quite nice. Fountain pen, scratchy, although I do like it. Doesn't seem to be feathering. I don't mind a scratchy fountain pen, and then always feel like I have to write bigger with a felt tip pen. Yeah, it doesn't seem to be feathering at all, which is quite nice. There isn't any bleed through. It's just that the paper is so thin, you can see through it, but there isn't technical bleed through, I guess you'd call it. This is a really small notebook. It's like just over 4¼ inches by 3, or 110 by 75 millimeters. Very nice. Again, great addition to a front breast pocket, a t-shirt pocket, because it is nice and light and won't drag the side of your t-shirt down. Back pocket, obviously, and probably because of its size, even a front jeans pocket. Very rare to have a notebook that fits that criteria. Might not be super comfortable, but I think it'll fit. Finally, this is a Life Stationery notebook. They're a Japanese brand. Stenographer's notebook. I love it when notebook makers put you have to fill in information in the front. It feels like it's part of something, part of a filing system, which I don't have really, but it is quite nice. Really heavy cardstock. Well, not really heavy, but strong enough on the front. pretty hefty at the back. The paper, so it's this yellowed, pretty smooth feeling paper. It feels kind of similar to Muji notebook paper, if you've ever used that. And it's got a graph grid in light blue. The rings remind me a bit more of like a cheaper school kind of ring-bound notebooks, but it kind of goes with the aesthetic and the style. This particular notebook was $12.95 US. And let's do a quick test on this one. So we'll start off with the pencil again. This paper is quite smooth. Felt. It's kind of, with the felt tip pen, it's kind of squeaky on the page, which is nice. It's the smoother paper. It's not as smooth as like the glossy kind of Rhodia paper, which I don't really like. And this is kind of as smooth as I'd like paper to be, but it is really nice to write on. And then rollerball. Not quite as enjoyable to write on. It's a bit too smooth for the rollerball. And let's see. Just the right balance between scratchy and gliding, I guess, across the page. Does it bleed through? Not very much. Not really at all. Doesn't feather. So all in all, really good. And this will be like a nice desk pad to have. Definitely not a sort of a daily carry thing, but more for a project of some sort. Yeah. Really nice. So those are the notebooks that I got from New York. Really nice selection of textures and sizes and types. And that's it for those notebooks. All right, now I will talk a bit about the notebook that I took with me to New York, as well as the pen that I took with me. And this is the pen that I take with me on all my travels, because it is the smallest and most convenient. It is a click pen, really easy to get the refills for it. Very nice because it is kind of a fidget pen, sort of stimming kind of thing for when you're on the plane or on buses, and even in line at the grocery store. It's just the perfect thing to undo and redo. Very satisfying. All the threads, it's made of solid brass and everything kind of just fits perfectly. You can barely see the seam where it comes together. I just like mechanical things like that. When you get it, the brass is kind of more like the ferrule on this pencil. It's like highly polished. But as you use it, obviously, it's the sweat from your hands and in and out of pockets. It gets this really nice patina and wear on it. As you can see, there's meant to be like the Kaweco logo on the front there and on the top, which you definitely can't see on the camera, and you can barely see in real life. But the sort of the wear and the texture as it's been worn in has covered that up and made it a really nice pen. The main reason for using this pen is that it fits perfectly in a front pocket, which is sort of nice and secure. It's not going to fall out of your back pocket as you sit down. Pen sort of this size is a nightmare to have in your pocket. It's fine if you have like a breast pocket on a jacket, but anything other than that, shirt is too flimsy. This is perfect. It sits in your front pocket. It's the size, of a field notes notebook, width-wise. So it doesn't really you don't even notice it's there. Kind of sits with your keys, and it writes really nicely. So that goes everywhere with me when I'm outside. And this is just the latest or the current field notes notebook that I'm using. So this is number 91. I've been using field notes as a daily, everyday carry kind of notebook for about 10 years. So I've got number 1 here, and that was started in 2012. And it's just the original field notes notebook. I have a number of them, which I just dropped on the side here. But this is number 91. It is the National Parks Great Smoky Mountains set. Really one of my favorite ones of that series. The colors on the image here are just so nice. The red and the green brown, sort of the very nature-based colors, I guess, and the cute little drawings of the bears. Number 91. Now, the reason I make sure I always have I have it as a daily notebook, but I always take one specifically when I'm traveling, because I don't take very many photos when I'm traveling, but I do record kind of the streets I've walked in, what I saw, and I just literally at the end of the day for about 5 or 10 minutes will sit and like write down what I saw, what I did that day. Nothing particularly reflective or insightful, just literally what I saw. And for me, that's a nice way of using a notebook, because I don't have very many, I'm not a writer or anything like that. So it gives me a good excuse to just write in my notebooks. The other thing I do, which I do on a daily basis, keep track of what my expenditures in my field notes. Particularly when I'm overseas, I just write a list, or write sort of all my individual spends. So lots of delis and lots of bagel and sandwich oriented expenditure while I was in New York. Another thing I do is I just save sort of random stuff that fits into the dimensions of a field note. So here I have some receipts from pizza places, the thing from Trader Joe's tote bag that I bought, Filson store sign up paper, love Filson, and the credits paper from the Book of Mormon Broadway show that I went to see. Anyway, so that's the field notes that I use, and this is my current everyday carry. My field notes generally last about a month to 6 weeks each, and I have 10 years worth of field notes to go through on this channel. I've got the standard issue ones, as well as many of the they used to call them colors. I'm not sure what they call them anymore, but it's the subscription. Every quarter they come out with a new one, and I don't have a subscription. I had at one point, but now I kind of pick and choose which ones I will go for. But this particular one is quite nice because the cover, which is a 100-pound C French craft tone, wears quite nicely. Some of them, I don't have an example at the top here, but some of them take a long time to wear in, and by the time they're worn in, I'm just about to finish them, so I don't get the enjoyment of that sort of textural feeling as they wear in. Some of them are quite susceptible to wearing in, which I love. For example, this one has been used many times as a coaster, and it just frayed, and sort of the staples even rusted a bit. And it's been bent in and out of pockets and bags, and so that is a real pleasure to use because it wears quickly, and this is kind of that same textural feeling. So I am enjoying using this at the moment. And so this is kind of the right balance of not too fine of materials that it will be completely destroyed in the few weeks that I'm using it, although I don't mind that necessarily. The bigger problem is that they don't actually wear in and they feel too new for too long. I like the textural feeling of a worn-in field notes, and this is good. These National Park series are good that way. So yeah, back in the pocket it goes. That was it for this video. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next one. See ya.